Okay, the recording has started, and I'm going to turn on the AI notes. Excellent. Okay, so per usual, we will start with roll call. And let me just go to my list here. Aditi,
Present?
Suzanne,
Present.
Poochie,
Here.
Michael. Michael's not here. I did not hear from him. VJ,
Here.
Rachel. Rachel said that she won't make it today. She's on vacation in Canada, I believe, right? Canada? Somewhere. Dakota.
Here.
I'm present, of course. Carly is not present, and I did not hear from her. And Eileen is absent as well. She's still on leave. Okay. So with that, we can move on to minutes. I don't believe that a draft went out, so we can just continue this to the next meeting, right, Aditi? Or did I miss anything?
I sent
Yeah.
a draft out.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
that's all one.
Oh my God, my bad. I must have completely missed it.
Yeah. I apologize. It was a bit of a rushed write-up because I had such little time between now and today. I was just trying to make sure it's in. So if folks want more things added or anything else clarified, and the AI companion was just like watching summaries by saying somebody said something and somebody else said something. So I just sort of wrote I just wrote the summary. So if there are, you know, things that you want added more or, and also these are minutes. I think people have access to the recording. So I'm sort of leaning in with like this more succinct, the better. But if there is
Yeah.
something you really want in there that you felt like wasn't, please tell me. I can definitely go in and write it up.
Yeah, they look good. Maybe we should include a note at the bottom. I should have thought of this sooner, but I'm just thinking of this now as we're having this conversation. Just a little disclaimer that the minutes were partially written by the AI companion and revised by you as well as the task force, just so that people know that a lot of it is AI generated.
Right. No, that works.
It also helps, you know, it helps with neutrality because people then know like, oh, this is an AI summary, right? It's not like uh a certain person's interpretation of like what should be on there, or like I think it's actually better. We should probably move to that model in general as a city, because I think it's more it just keeps the notes more neutral.
Yeah.
Any changes from anyone or any discussion on the minutes? Okay, so can I get a motion to approve?
Works for me.
I'll move
All
to
right.
approve.
Can I get a second? Seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor, raise hand. Perfect. Pucci, are you yes?
I haven't looked at them, to be honest, so
Okay, so then you can just abstain. Okay, so Pucci's abstaining. All right. Excellent. So moving on to the next agenda item. Let's see. So I think our entire agenda today is just follow-ups from the August 18th meeting that we didn't get to because of we were short in time. So the first item on the agenda is to determine the number of listening sessions and presentations to schedule in order for the task force to make an informed decision on the seal. So I'd like to open up the floor for discussion on that topic.
Where did we leave it last time? Because I thought of we're just gonna bring in as many as we need and until the 18 months are up, and that's the idea.
I think we were just beginning a conversation around this. I don't, or at least I can't remember where we left it off.
Mhm.
So it's more so like I think Dakota at one point said that, we can always get more feedback and we can always get more experts. So at what point will we feel ready as a task force to make a decision, right? Because I think that's a good point, right? Like, I think there's always more presentations, more feedback to be collected, more tabling events. So how do people feel about when they would be ready to make a decision?
Well, I'll reiterate my point that I made that comment in context of, which is like, I think it's worth our while to stop and say, here's the outline of our report, and here, are sort of the key things that we've noticed so far and the key pieces of this. And you know, I think if we put that out there, we'll probably hear back if people are going to say, "Hey, you totally forgot about this big important thing right here," that we need to follow up on, and we'll also get a sense of like, "Oh, we don't know the answer to this." Like when I had passed around an outline to the members, which we could discuss of a draft, and one thing that I realized, and I'm not sure if this was on the initial questionnaire, but like one thing that became very clear to me looking at it is like I don't think we've really asked for public comment on like what's the purpose of the seal to you? What is it? What does it mean to
Mm,
you? Is it a way of commemorating history? Is it a way of doing this? Of or a way of like symbolizing the city as it exists today? What what do our residents see as the purpose of it? Which I think would maybe inform some of our recommendations. And I don't know that that's a question we've asked, but it
Mm.
was certainly something in writing up the outline that I thought about. Because I was like, oh, should I weight this more toward historical information? Should I weight this more toward, contemporary feelings of folks?
I like that idea of having one focused question. I think that would encourage speakers to focus their thoughts on that question rather than branch out into all kinds of areas. And I think it also would invite the people of Salem to give their response to that question, especially if the question was tailored that way so that it was best answered by someone who has lived here. I think the other thing, and I'm just dovetailing on this, like if we're thinking of, I really like Dakota's thing of brainstorming and then throwing out stuff that's throwing out the clinkers. So I'll throw this out. It might be a clinker. And I just thought of it. The kids are going back to school. I really love that letter from Farzine. Maybe we could have a listening session that's just for young people, that the future of Salem. The
So,
people that are gonna live with
Yeah.
the seal one way or the other going forward.
I think I maybe I am about to say something that like presents a little bit more of a serious perspective, but I feel like there's been a lot of very incendiary and strong words sometimes being circulating around the task force, especially if somebody comes up and says that they wanted to change, that I feel really protective of minors participating in a conversation, which, and I also like, I feel like many of us have been a target of online harassment and very strong words have been used, at least I know against me for just being on a voluntary task force, which I was appointed to by the mayor. And I, as a psychologist, I also, perhaps like one of the things I want to ask is like, I want to present what that looks like what is the perspective on like online conversations about this, and why is it that only a certain sect of people who are talking about it, those in favor of changing it, are the only people who are getting this very very strongly worded, very vitriolic comments in our direction compared to folks who don't want it to change. And nothing against that, but I think that that's very much like the presentation I made I'm a psychologist with a doctorate, and yet people are like, who is she to speak about this and why she's no expert? And these are naive API stupid people. That's the kind of stuff that I'm facing. I live in this community. I step out every day. I don't think that that is, and the pushback often is like, well, you signed up for it, so you're gonna get criticized. I think there is a way and manner of a healthy debate and criticism that the line, is a dot right now. People have in maybe, please, if there is something you want to say, um, um, in defense of people calling me stupid or calling me, calling what I
So
say
Aditi,
slander.
are you saying that we shouldn't have any listening sessions at all for that reason? Like under no circumstances, or just
No,
because?
I don't think
Um,
so here's the interesting part is that like I think that there is a level of anonymity that internet forums gives people in which people can say whatever that I don't see in listening sessions. Similar to when you anonymously, right, part of the push in wanting to know what the IP addresses of people are when they fill out forms, especially anonymously, is behind then people take responsibility for the word and the language that they use. I am not opposed to criticism. You don't have to agree with what my perspective. Absolutely. I invite a conversation about that. But can you sit there and not name call? Can you sit there and have a good conversation about it? I would welcome that. I mean, BJ and I disagree, I'm sure, on a bunch of things, and we've had a good conversation so far in this forum. Professor Fiener probably disagrees with a lot of what I think and say. I welcome an academic and informed debate about these issues. I do not tolerate online harassment.
Yeah.
Is
I
there a
thank
way
you.
that we
Wait,
could,
hold on, Suzanne. I think um first off, I think it's really important to validate what Aditi is saying because the level of online harassment has been extremely toxic, and I'm so sorry for all the task members who are personally experiencing this harassment. And um I've personally experienced it myself to some extent, and it has been targeted to certain individuals. And I think it is important for us to talk about it as to like why are only certain individuals being targeted. And I think I just really want to emphasize, Aditi, like I'm really, really sorry. I think we all entered this process hoping that it would be a healthy dialogue about the city seal. And I think, at least me, talking from personal experience, I think the meetings themselves have been really, like, personally rewarding because we get to talk about the seal, like what we get to do the task that we were set out to do. It's the things that are happening outside of the meetings, like the online harassment, the bullying, the just toxicity online that have just really gotten out of hand. And I'm so sorry that there's no easy way to address it. And I just wanted to name that those are very, very real things that are happening on online right now.
And um, if I may, just because with Poochie and I just having been at the farmers market, I stated it a few times, and it was really made clear to me, just being there in person, that in some ways the there's almost like a structural issue with the task force being mostly virtual, in that the conversations people have in person, like we experienced at the farmers market, is honestly been so much more richer because it's a back and forth, and it's not a one way. They go mute and go into the audience and we respond. There's never a back and forth there, and there's also not a ton of deep discussion that we are able to get over an online forum like this, whether it's time limits or just being behind a screen. I'm outside of this screen, I'm at my house. This is sort of like, it's a comfortable environment. And I think everyone that's speaking in an online public forum is also in that very comfortable environment. But when you're face to face with people and you can actually like pull up information on the fly or show them a passage in a book and actually have a back and forth, there is a much more richer experience, which when we consider what we're discussing here, I mean, the task force was put together to discuss a very emotional and touches a deep nerve in the local, with local people here. And to have that be an online thing where I think we are all understanding whether we were part of this task force before or not, or whether I should say we had been on online forum or not, we sort of understand just how vitriolic online discussions can be. And to take that out of that as much as possible, it just feels, I mean, again, we were formed as a virtual task force, and that's why I say it's almost like a structural issue with everything.
I agree with you on the part that I think that there is a certain element of it being virtual that does structurally get in the way. But I don't think that our task force members, we are not anonymous. Our addresses are posted on the Salem website. Our credentials were evaluated. It's part of public record. We are on paper. People know who we are. People know where our offices are. People know where our homes are. That is not true for the people who are making comments, and like folks who come to the listening session also, they have not had any, like the last listening session that was public online, people stated their name, they stated where they lived, they stated their ward. We had Professor Seeger, we had Carol Carr, we had someone from Ward 2 who's a neighbor of mine. We had, people come and talk and self-identify and share their perspectives, whatever they were, even if they disagree with what my personal perspective is on this, right? I think that there is a level of, I don't know what happens to people on Facebook. I don't know what happens, sometimes when, and I like the fact that you say that, in person there is a back and forth, a conversation that is absolutely missing from a task force meeting. But I don't think that this task force meeting is also meant for public and like back and forth. So if we want to do more listening sessions in person, but I think I would, if it is possible for us to talk a little bit of safeguarding ourselves from online harassment. I do presentations like that all the time on college campuses. I've done anti-harassment training. I would love to present some language that we perhaps have to safeguard us, just to redirect people to where the actual conversation is versus where the,
Yeah.
sometimes
So one
the
of the things that when everybody's been talking, I've yearned for a face to face. That was the first really enjoyable time, honestly, spent on this task force when we did our farmers market thing and we got to talk to real
Yeah.
humans who were just sitting there telling us about their lives and their thoughts. And I've been thinking about ways that we could do that in a larger setting. And one of the things that we did, because it was tough when DEI came into Mass Art, we had a chapter of Black Lives Matter open on campus. And what they did was we had listening sessions that were, you went and there was tables of 4 people. So, and at each table there would be one person from the DEI department, which they just opened just after Black Lives Matter came there. And people would just have a conversation. So it would be that one person and then 3 other people. And I know I've gone to a couple things down at the senior center where they have a setup that's similar to that. It's just that it's like everybody in the chairs facing the person giving the presentation. It's not small groups sitting around a table talking. So I don't know if that would be a model we could use, or if there's just some way, because I think one of the things that Aditi is referring to is the anonymity and being home alone at your, with your laptop. It just sort of, you had a bad day at work or whatever, it just sort of encourages kind of meanness if you are feeling that way, or anger. And that didn't happen when you meet with people that's really hard to be that way when someone's sitting right
Yeah.
next to you at a small
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suzanne
And
Barnes has been called mentally ill from being on this task force.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been called quite
This is not,
that's not okay. I'm
it's not
sorry,
okay.
Suzanne.
Yeah.
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 And So having the meetings in person is definitely within our, you know, scope of authority. Like we can definitely make that decision for ourselves. We can accommodate Michael who needs a Zoom link because he's in
Yeah.
Japan. Well, or I don't really know where he is at this point. He's somewhere in Asia. But we can certainly accommodate a Zoom link. He has missed quite a few meetings, right? But I'm more than happy to arrange for a hybrid setup, right? But that is something that if we feel like could make a difference, just having these meetings be in person, for that human element, I can do that, or we can do that rather, and we can also make all future listening sessions have the same format where we default to in person and then maybe provide a call-in link for any person who may need the accommodation for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Could I propose something? Because I've been thinking about this, especially after the farmers market. The way that we've been doing our meetings so far has been good, especially when we get those outside voices in, the outside experts and all that. But I feel like every few meetings, especially having so many outside experts in and not a huge opportunity to have a discussion internally about it afterwards, if we set up a meeting, maybe like after our next meeting, which is when we're going to have Dr. Erica Lee and Dr. Michael Feener present, maybe the meeting after is one where we are in person to discuss about everything we've heard so far, to sort of then, I mean, that's going to be the back and forth in a room with all the information we have that we've had so far. We can pull it all together. We have the presentations. We can all, we'll do our homework, right? We'll review everything up to that point and then get together in a room and let's talk about that. And then I have a feeling that some more questions, which could be answered by experts, will be brought up. And that's what then we write down. And then we continue the meetings as we have been doing it virtually, bring in those experts and then meet again in person and discuss and sort of,
Okay,
every few meetings.
but what would, so it would just be us talking without any participants, like without any Salem participants? I'd like to involve like a listening set, like they watch us talk plenty. Like I would love to have some conversations, even with the person who called me mentally ill. I'm happy to sit down and talk with them.
I mean, we can certainly um have some meetings be remote, some in person, right? Like I think we just have to decide ahead of time whether the upcoming meeting, what format it will be, like whether it's going to be virtual or in person. I think the next meeting on the calendar, if unless we schedule another special meeting, which we might have to, honestly, um, is the next regular meeting on the 15th of September.
Mhm.
So we can aim for that one to be in person.
Well,
That'd be
Michael.
tricky because Feener's presenting, right?
Oh,
and
yeah,
Dr.
that's
Erica
right.
Lee as well, virtually.
Yeah, so then maybe the one after should be in person, per
That's,
VJ's point.
that's
Okay.
right.
And to Aditi's earlier point around online harassment, Aditi, if you want to do a presentation around it, we can certainly discuss it under new business. Does that
Could
sound
we
good?
please? Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to also be part of this like this has been the underbelly of the process. Like
Mhm.
we do all the technical conversations in here, and then there's this barrage of things that comes from outside, and this is one part of it. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just
So,
making myself a note.
Thank
been
you.
sort of keeping a little list here of like what are we missing, and I think it sounds like an in-person listening session is one of those things we're missing. And I don't want to shut down what I think is productive conversation, but looping back to the original question, I do have a question as I sit here is like, for each of you, what information do you feel like you still need
Right.
to start making some informed recommendations on this subject?
Is there any way to get that city seal presentation? I know there's one administrator who was appointed who still can't make it. I know last time we kind of mentioned that. I think that would be a start.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do have an update on that note. So I followed up with the clerk's office and last week and copied VJ because VJ offered to just help support the clerk's office in locating the records. So it turns out I heard today that Eileen did put aside a folder of records. So that makes this process a whole lot easier because I originally thought that we were going to have to ask Maureen to look through everything, which I thought was a hugely daunting task, right? But it appears that Eileen already identified a lot of those documents. So VJ, I think all you would really have to do is go through the folders that Eileen put aside, and then we can kind of go from there. Like, do we feel like the information in there captures like what we need? So it's exciting because there's been progress on that, and VJ, if it's not too much to ask, at some point maybe this week, would you mind just sorting through those folders to see if it's the information we're more or less looking for?
Oh, I'd love to. Would I just go to the city clerk's office and ask for it?
I will find out. I think it's in Beth's office, so it might be as simple as that. But before you make the trip, I just want to confirm because I think it was just a folder that Maureen was going to take to Beth's office.
Okay, cool, cool.
And
I'll
I
coordinate with the-
apologize for not being up to speed here. I feel bad. Is this would this be a conversation on history of the seal, on like the ways the city uses the seal? What was the clerk's office planning to present on?
Yes, so what the information that I specifically asked for is any record that the clerk's office has on the seal, the use of the seal, and on any time that it's been changed, right? Because the seal has been changed multiple times. It was edited at one point not too long ago. I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but like even you know, there were some elements that had already been deemed somewhat problematic. Like apparently there was like a mustache or some facial hair that was removed already. And so I wanted to get the specifics on what exactly were the elements that were removed and why, and like, how many times has it been officially changed?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, the accuracy of the seal from its original drawing has been very, very badly marred. As many people have commented throughout the historical record that have
Mhm.
tried to correct it. So, yeah, that's perfect because that'll provide everything I need, or I hope it
Be
does. So,
great.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Dakota, just one more thing. Eileen was also originally going to present on the clerk's role as the keeper of the seal, because the clerk is the primary department, like she's the primary person in the city who uses the seal, right? And that was something that I covered in the presentation that I did. And um, from my research and from my knowledge, like it's primarily used to authenticate records, right? So
Hmm.
since the clerk's office is like the main keeper of records, like anything that, would require the official city seal as a stamp, as an authentication stamp, such as like a death certificate, marriage license, birth record, that would be kept in the clerk's office, and that's why the the clerk has this kind of special role as the keeper of the seal. So I just wanted to we wanted to hear more about what that meant and you know what what sort of we just wanted to learn more about that.
So do we feel like that presentation is likely? Is Eileen going to be able to return within the time frame we have to do that, or is somebody else from the clerk's office? Or do we feel like that part is necessary, or do we feel like that got covered elsewhere?
I don't know. I don't know if she'll be back to present. I can certainly ask Maureen if she would feel comfortable in presenting. And I'll get back to you on that. Alternatively, we can see if there's another clerk from a neighboring municipality who would be kind enough to kind of explain what what clerks use the seal for. I think I did cover a lot of it in my presentation, but there might have definitely been things that I missed.
Yeah, I think the history of changes for sure. I'd be interested in it. I don't know beyond your presentation, which I've listened to, you know, I don't know that there's a whole lot to delve into that, for at least for me, that I feel like, oh man, I need more information on that.
Right.
I think it helpful to know too, you know, where the seal is, because another thing at the farmer's market, and I notice it now all the time, the lampposts throughout Salem have this seal on it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Of course, the trash cans, we know that trash cans, recycling cans, you know. So what is the, you know, what's the extent of this seal's use out there now? And
That's
what
it.
would it, you know, where, how far and wide does it go? If, you know, if it were to be changed, that type of thing.
Well, like I can cover that around like the
Oh,
scope of
cool.
the seal use, because I touched on that already, you know, like there's it's used as a logo, right? Like as a sort of this representative symbol for anything relating to the city, right? So it's put on all city materials, right? Like any documents, any official documents, any letters that go out, any agendas, you know, boards and commissions agendas or city council agendas. It's also used as the default image for any time that we do like partnerships, right? Like whenever, um, you know, let's say the North Shore CDC is citing like in partnership with the city of Salem, they'll put the city seal as like the logo representing us, right? Which is why we had that whole conversation around you know, sometimes cities have a seal for the clerk's office, which is more an official seal and it's more detailed. And then they also have like a marketing logo. So Boston has one, right? Like they have the Boston seal, which is like that city skyline and it's kind of detailed. And then they also just have the simple B logo that they put on every marketing material.
Oh, so Regina, I thought the logo from your presentation was the city logo, I believe officially from the presentation was the witch.
So no, so I also talked about that where different departments will have different logos, right? And that's the city's police department's logo has the witch.
Public
And that's
safety.
not within our scope. Yeah, I can even share let me see if I can share my presentation again just to refresh
Yeah.
everyone's memories. But we're not changing that. Like that's not really up for discussion because that's not considered, you know, like that's not within the scope that we're discussing here, and that would be its own separate process.
But I do think to DJ's point, past use is relevant. Like how much stuff is in here out there that would have to change, and what's the associated expense of that and what's the runway, you know, because we'd have to go to the city and say, okay, we recommend you within 5 years or within 10 years, you know.
And I've
Um,
also noticed as well the so engineering department. I just know the engineering department off my head because that's what I have seen recently. They got, you know, they have fleeces or whatever they are, and it's the witch logo on that
Yeah.
representing the
right.
city. So you
Yeah,
as
and
well
they
have
yeah.
the
And
parking garage,
that's
the South River parking garage as well has a sign that has both the city seal and the city logo right next to each other, the witch and the Sumatran man. So trying to understand where one stops, is it only with the police force and the fire department? Because I feel like it's much more widespread than that. And
no,
understanding
there's
how the two are
tons.
linked.
There are tons of
Great
logos, right?
question.
So here, let me share my screen. So, and yes, I think I do know about the engineering department using the police logo. Um, I think it's just a more popular logo. Let me just put it that way, right? So it's the logo that I think most people would recognize. But a lot of people have criticized that logo too, right? I just think it's important to remember that that's not
Yeah.
within our scope of what we're
Yeah, outside
considering.
of our
Like we're
scope.
not changing, we're not changing other departments' logos. Like we're purely changing the seal. But I'll share my screen. Hold on.
Feel like cops do such hard work. I do not want to. I
Yeah,
want that to be someone
and I
else's
quite frankly I don't
battle. I
want to.
really support the hard
Yeah,
work they do.
yeah. Quite frankly, I don't want to open the can of worms, and it is very popular. I will say, like people come from all over the country to collect that patch.
I see.
I
did
know a
not
lot of money
that.
gets made from the sale of those for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so this was from my presentation back in April.
Mhm.
And so yeah, this is just the image of our current seal. And again, a lot of people forget that we have this little motto here, which is part of the seal, which is the farthest port of the rich East. Um, yeah, and this is a previous version of the seal. I think VJ, you might have even talked about it in one of your presentations.
The library's book plate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so the seal has been revised at multiple points in time in the past, so that's kind of what we're looking to get more information on from the clerk's office. Then we talked about like how we even got here, right? And so this is where I kind of got into the different logos. So there is a difference between a city seal and a city logo. And so the police department and the fire department, for example, both have their own logos, right? And so this one here is what often people think is our official city seal, but it's actually a logo used by the police department, right? And then this is the one that's owned by Destination Salem, and it's also used on city websites a lot, but that's a tourism logo. And this is actually trademarked by Destination Salem, so we can't really use it without their explicit permission for anything. Yeah, then we talked about Natick. Oh, and this is also what I was talking about earlier, where this is there's examples where cities will have both a seal and a logo, right, for more mainstream marketing purposes. And in this example, we have Boston, right, where this is their old seal, then they updated it to this more simple version, simplified version. And then they also created these additional logos to print on more marketing materials and because there's also printing costs, right? Like it's probably more expensive. I actually don't know too much about it, but it's probably more expensive to print this on the side of a trash can than it is to print something like this, right? Depending on you know which manufacturing you go to, which manufacturer. So I'll stop.
Wait, Karina, so there is no official Salem City logo. I see departmental ones, and of course the city sales. So I just want to confirm my understanding.
Correct. Yes. So
Okay.
we don't have dual logos like Boston does. We use the seal for representing the city.
It's interesting too that the Boston one is entirely different. Like there's no relationship to the original, to the seal itself, which I think is interesting. Just because for the fact that, we're talking, a lot of the voices we've heard about, what should the seal be is representing, what is Salem now? What is Salem now? But is that still going to be the case 100 years from now? And is that logo still going to be relevant? Is it going to be changed again? Or, so that's where like, is the logo more flexible in that way than the seal is? Or is it just, going to have to be changed all the time to meet different?
Well, BJ, it's worth noting, one of the big changes, nobody noticed typography, but when they changed the Boston City seal and they had the I don't know what the font is for that, but it's a sans serif font. And and it's a radical difference between those two seals, the black and white ones that are over one another. The whole thing changes over to sans serif. That's the same typeface that's being used in the Boston marketing logo.
Oh, I
Yeah,
meant
that's
just the
really
B.
trendy right now.
Sorry,
Oh,
Pucci, what's that?
what was that, Poochie?
I'm just saying the sans serif has been so trendy and modernizing
Right.
logos in this day and age. I mean, look what just happened with the Cracker Barrel conversation, I think, for the last
Right,
week.
exactly.
So I think there's an element of what's in style and what's modern when it comes to logos, and it's probably easier to kind of redesign those materials and the flexibility it affords versus something like a seal for the various purposes that I think you just covered off on. And I think that's where maybe the Watertown use case is really interesting because of where they landed in introducing a official city logo and leaving their seal, I think by and large, alone. So I think there are different ways to think about this. If we're gonna start talking about what's possible and bringing all the voices together and all that, it might not be so binary maybe, but just kind of want to throw that out there.
Well,
Great
and that's
point.
a really good point because in the case study that I shared about Natick, where they recently changed their city seal, I do want to just highlight that their process was significantly different than ours. Like they did theirs mostly internally, whereas this is a very public conversation. So just want to highlight that difference.
Do you know,
Um,
Regina, how it was received then in that case, that process?
I really don't know the details. I should ask my contact over there about that. I
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I'll say what
Um,
Natick started with is not good. That
yeah,
is not like,
yes.
I don't know if there's
Terrible.
many ways you can paint that positively.
Yeah, so this was their original seal, right? So as you can see, it's, you know,
Well,
a
they're using a
visual.
serif font too. That's the, I don't, it doesn't look that old, but it's a serif font that they're using.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, was their original seal. They updated their official seal to this, but they also created a logo, and this is the logo that they created, right? So when they went through the process, they created both. One that was, the seal for the clerk's records, and one that was, meant to be probably printed on engineering sweatshirts, right? Because it's easier to print
Well,
than the
those aren't the
bridge.
same fonts either. They're using a different font on the round seal than they on. What is that lumpy thing that's to the left of the word Natick in the
I think that's an outline of the municipality.
The county map.
it looks like a dog.
It
Yeah,
does
it
look like a
does.
dog.
Wow. It's
Oh
like a
yeah, an
box.
outline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be
I'll
the
reach out
town
to this
mascot.
person too.
Great
A
idea.
mascot.
Well, the Salem 400 now has a cat mascot. I don't know if you all
Oh,
know.
that's so cute.
Yeah.
Adorable. I don't think it has a
Um,
name though, does it?
oh, I think there's some name. Oh, there's a naming competition. That's what's happening.
Oh, like
They're
chicken
gonna
It's gonna be the
they're gonna
kids who
choose a
named it
name.
Chicken Nugget.
Yeah, that
Hear
how they
that?
did the
Oh.
chicken nugget
Well,
thing.
Yeah.
Now they're
can I
gonna do
take a
the
teeny
but
tiny
we
picture?
so
If
we advocated for the older kids this time because it was the kindergarten kids last time. So I'm like, we gotta give this opportunity to the older kids. So we're
Well, you
doing the
guys,
older
if you
kids
get
now.
today's Globe, there's an article, so they're changing, as we know, their seal and their flag in the state of Massachusetts. And they invited a competition, just like the chicken nugget, and they got over 1,000 submissions from people in Massachusetts. So they published some of the ones that didn't make it today, and it's really worth looking at. There's like a dinosaur drinking a cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee and stuff that it just I'll be really interested to see what ends up being chosen, but what they did was printed some of the best rejects in the Globe. So
That's awesome. Okay, so bringing us back to the agenda. So we were
sorry.
on the item to basically learn what do we need to know or what do we need to see before making a decision. And so far I've heard um that we want to hear the information from the clerk's office that we can obtain. We want to hear a little bit more around the scope of the seal use. Anything else?
We
I
want
think
VJ's presentation on history of the seal
Yeah.
and changes over time. And then we also we want to try and get at least one in-person listening session on the books.
Perfect.
I mean, are we listing all the things out that we'd like to see before we make a decision?
I for sure think we should just start making a list of what's missing right now.
Yeah.
Because I think it would give us a good runway.
Yeah. Local historical context. I've actually gathered a bunch of stuff on that. Trade relationship. the direct trade relationship between Salem and Sumatra. There's been a lot of good information out there, but it's been sort of trade in general, sort
Do
of
you
either as America as a whole or international
Yeah.
trade with Sumatra.
Do you think
Uh,
Professor Feener would cover that bit,
I mean, I'd
given
hope,
his
right?
expertise?
That's the idea. I don't know what his like the title of his presentation is going to be about, things like that. So on barring that information, that's kind of that would be the hope.
Would it be out
Yeah.
of line to ask him to cover that a little bit or give it, 10 minutes in his presentation?
Mm.
He's the
Oh,
author.
100%, absolutely. I mean, that's where I feel like that's probably what he's going to cover also, though. And this is sort of something where the reason I brought up having the discussion after having all of the presentations up to now between ourselves is because more questions might come out of that we're not able right now to say this is what information I'd like to have. Hence why I don't know if I can fully say personally myself, I'm going to need to know X, Y, and Z, and then I'm good. Wipe my hands of it. I wish I had that kind of knowledge. Man, that would make my life a lot easier.
No, and I think certainly there's learning things creates more questions. I want to know what are the questions we still have right now. And I think that's a good start. And I for sure agree with you, VJ. I've been trying to read a little as I can, but I would definitely like to know more specifically about Salem.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that kind of wraps up this agenda item.
I have one more comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to make a recommendation into a report that will ultimately go to city council for vote, is it appropriate to kind of find out what they would want to make sure is covered to inform ultimately kind of what makes into the report, or is that out of bounds?
I can certainly ask. I think
Because they're the audience ultimately, right? That needs to take action. It doesn't sit with us.
I think I've already sort of asked that question in one way, shape, or form, and but I'll ask the question again more explicitly just to make sure that I have the right answer. But what I've heard is, at least from the mayor recently, is that they want a report on why, first off, if we're recommending to change the seal or not, and why, right? Like what our reasoning is. And basically a summary of all of the data collection that we've done so far, like who we've heard from and what has been shared, right? And oh yeah, and the mayor specifically asked also for, if we do vote to change the seal, like basically some starting points for like a city seal design process or ideas for what one could look like, right? Or what we heard, like themes of what mattered to people throughout this process. So something that I've heard repeatedly that is actually a thread of commonality on both sides, but from people wanting to keep the seal and people wanting to change it, is that people really value the maritime trade with Asia and they want to honor that relationship, right? I think again and again, we've come to the conclusion that it's the figure and the representation of a person that is problematic, right? And how that is done. I think VJ at one point you said, that you brought up the pepper trade and how that has a lot of really interesting history. And at one point, a pepper plant was suggested. So that might be an example of something that we might want to include.
And I will say that I think from what I heard anyway, that's not completely conclusive. I think there are some who have said, yeah, the pepper trade itself was exploitative, and maybe we need to move away from that.
Yeah, that's a good point too, right? I think I was
I
just kind of
don't
giving
I
an
think there's an
example.
idea of that, in general maritime stuff, but I think the more specific we get in, the more dangerous it gets there.
True.
Or contentious it gets.
Well,
You talk about
it's worth mentioning, but I've been actually in more than 3 or 4 conversations with neighbors and people on the street people are really worried that we're gonna put a witch on the seal. That's something that we're gonna consider as a possibility, and it's a fear, and I totally get that. I mean, I don't know how we could state that, or maybe we are
I
gonna
mean, we
consider
can't
putting
state
witch.
that, right?
Yeah, we can
What?
state that in the report of like, we don't
Well,
think that
then
it should
let's
be
do
changed to
it and
this.
sort of soothe
Mhm.
some people's you know, worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, and you know, just to capture this into the record, I don't think I've ever heard from anyone on this task force or anybody in this process that we should put a witch on the seal.
No.
Like that has not happened, and nobody has advocated for that. And yeah, I think we have all heard, what we have heard is like wanting to honor this relationship with Asia.
Yeah, and this is sort of the tricky part, right? Because you take the 1,000-foot view and you think about trade between one country and another around the world that's completely different, and what's the automatic baseline? And I think it's kind of what drew this conversation up in the first place, which is that it's exploitative. And what I'm hoping, what I want to present later on with these sources is some ideas contrary to that, because we are now talking specifically about Salem and its trade, not America and its trade, but Salem. This is the city of Salem that we're talking about here. So getting specific is going to be important. And I think I might be able to help bring that in, but that's also more of the discussion I want to keep happening, or I want more to happen, is that
Yeah,
local.
I think that's super important, because I think, if we're rooting it in history and we're saying part of the purpose of the seal is to commemorate some part of our history, we've got to understand that history is inherently imperfect. I mean, we're not gonna capture something that doesn't have a dark side to it, right? If you dig far enough, that's how history works. And I think we've just got to be clear-eyed about that, and have as much information in making that decision as we can.
Yeah.
I was half joking with Pucci at the farmers market that it'd be a very non-offensive seal, just a white circle. No one's going to argue with that. Who's going to say no? There's
Hey,
nothing there you can argue with.
I'm sure you'll find somebody who will.
Why is the circle got to be white,
You'll
BJ?
find it,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah, there you go. Right. I can't win. One can win. We can't win.
All right. Well, we got to move on because we're
Yeah.
already an hour in. This is what happens. We get into these discussions. Okay.
This is perfect. This is great, though. This is exactly what it should be.
Okay, so the next agenda item, and I did take notes around future presentations and all that, so that's great. More on that soon. So the next agenda item is discussion and vote around closing the public input form and publishing a new form with updated questions. And just a note on this, also just a conversation around beginning to write a report for City Council with current response data. So I'd like to open up the floor for discussion on those two things. I do have an idea around the current response data. I was thinking we should run it through AI, like run the current spreadsheet of feedback through AI and ask it to summarize what the people in favor of changing the seal are saying and what people against changing the seal are saying, because that way we can kind of rely on AI to bring out the more to bring out the what it thinks are the most important points and those themes that are repeated the most, rather than like try to go in ourselves and then get called biased for choosing certain comments over others. So that's an idea that I would have been considering, that it would also just make it more straightforward.
I'm gonna go on record as saying that I believe more in our ability to capture nuance than I do in AI, but
Well,
I'm
we can
open
also
to it.
review it, right? We can review it. It's not that I just thought I think that there's value in having, the robot do it, because the robot can't be accused of being biased, right? And like we can put in the prompt that we put.
Yeah.
I know. I just trust us. I think the robot's got biases too.
Well, this is,
Are you saying
I mean, actually,
something
there's
like
a lot of data around this. Yeah, you're
There is,
right,
yeah,
Dakota.
yeah.
You were right.
The training data, right? It's just about what it's trained on. So,
This is true.
um, but yeah, no,
wait, wait,
I'm not against
sorry.
that. Oh, go ahead, Pucci.
Just a quick comment. Are you saying doing something more like a word cloud that would just surface some of the themes as opposed to like AI making some sort of judgment or analysis?
I don't mind
Either
if we
or.
use some tools to sort of create it, but I don't think we should absolve ourselves of the responsibility. I trust us to be willing to acknowledge our own biases and accurately represent this, you know.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, and I guess I should have prefaced that by saying that, like, whatever we do, if we do if we do end up using AI, like, it should still 100% be reviewed by us for accuracy and that it's capturing what we would want it to capture, right? But I think it would be helpful in kind of, helping us summarize over 400 responses of data, right? Because
Mm.
I think it's also what can also happen is, why are we choosing to highlight one comment over another, right? And we might get scrutinized for that.
Yeah, I have no problem having it take the first stab, aggregate the data, then us take a look at it, discuss it in one of these meetings, right? And sort of determine where we go from there. I don't know what it's going to spit out, so I guess it's going to matter. What do we ask it? What are the parameters of our query?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can we discuss the idea of closing the public input form and publishing a new one on Jot form with updated questions?
I'm personally perfectly fine with that as long as there's no gap of time under which a public input form is out there for someone to use. So I'm fine with closing the current one as long as Jot form is ready to go and it's out there as soon as we close the current one.
With VJ on that, I think one of the things that I'm really aware of now with hindsight is how naive we were when we put those questions together in about 20 minutes on like our first or second meeting together, and we had no idea what to expect. And I think now we can make the questions more targeted, and so that the answers can have some specificity. I'd like to see something more than just keep it, it's our history. And so we can thoughtfully, and I think we should do it thoughtfully if we're going to close the old one, to come up with 3 or 4 things to ask people to respond to. Same as with a live listening session, like to just be a guide for how they respond.
Do we feel like, I guess my thing, if we're saying, I've got no objection to switching the form because I think that the driver of it is to, make sure that we're getting more accuracy in the data. There's more transparency about, with Jot form and everything about, where the data is coming from and how representative it is. Do we feel like we've got enough data with the current questions? Because if we switch questions, we're talking about a whole new data set, right?
So
Do we
let
feel like
me,
we've got
oh,
enough data with the current questions that we have out there? Is my question.
let me open up the current questionnaire so we refresh our memories on what we're actually asking. Just give me 1 second. Here it is. Okay. So you're seeing the form, right?
Yep.
Is it big enough? Can you see it clearly?
Just the first question. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, so we start off with, are you a resident of Salem? Home address or neighborhood? Whether people are familiar with the seal. If we should change the seal, why? What themes and values we should represent? And what elements should remain if it's redesigned? And then the rest is just like staying connected.
Hmm.
Okay.
And so from previous meetings, what I remember is that it's really important that we add race to start collecting that data, and also age. Race and age seem to be two important data points to
You know, a
consider.
And would
question
those
that
be
bugged me from
optional
the,
or would those be required? Oh, sorry,
I
Suzanne.
think we would have to make them optional.
I
But
would
I'm
agree on
open
that.
for discussion on that.
well,
Sorry,
one question
Suzanne, I
I think,
interrupted you.
that's all right. I think we should get rid of that question, are you aware of the seal? Because if someone's answering the form, they're aware of the seal. Did anybody answer that question? No, I don't know. I've never seen the seal before.
Well, in the farmer's market, a lot of people
Yeah.
said that they didn't even know that we had a seal.
That
Really?
was the
But
most
they
shocking.
weren't responding to a form that was online. They were just passing by with their vegetables and tomatoes.
True. True. I mean, we can take the question off. I don't feel
Well,
strongly
if we
about it.
take it off, then we have room to ask something else.
Hmm.
I also think that just you know, in concerns for privacy, perhaps asking what ward somebody is from than to ask for their home address.
Well, so right now we have home address or neighborhood. Like, I think we kind of tried to
Yeah.
address some of those address, no pun intended,
Mhm.
some of those concerns. Um, I will say that this information was FOIA'd, as you all know, and it was subsequently posted online, which does bring up an ethical consideration of should we even be collecting home address data for that reason. And that was information that we had assumed could be redacted, and it turns out that it can't be redacted. The only thing that is redactable is a person's email address, not their name, not their home address, only their email address.
Right.
Hmm.
And I think that's why maybe you're leaving a neighborhood slash ward rather than asking for a detail, especially if people are sharing that content on the internet, because anyone can,
Yeah.
you know.
And maybe making it multiple choice and just given choices award would also make sure there's some consistency so we can actually get
Right.
down to that data without having to parse it all individually and find out what's there. So there may be a way
Yeah.
to make that a multiple choice and give us
Yeah.
a better picture of what we want to know.
Yeah.
Although I
And we
don't
can,
know the degree
and
to which we feel like do we need to know what ward people are from.
it's just a way that I don't
Yeah,
know. Or
same.
you could just say, I'm from Salem, I'm not from Salem.
I mean, at the end of the day, to your point, Aditi, it's self-reported. So we're
Correct.
trusting that these people are being like, well, if I hit no, are they going to listen to this? So I'm going to hit yes. I am a Salem resident. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
we have no way to verify any
I
of it. So,
know. There's no way of verifying that. You're right.
I mean,
But
I
but
I think
think,
that,
sorry,
go
go ahead,
ahead.
Aditi.
I was just gonna say that I think that having some, because I felt like there was this insistence that at some point that um when we decided to just ask where folks were from, I think that there was some insistence that Salem voices are important, and I agree.
Right.
Um, and so in that spirit, perhaps talking about like asking giving an option is important.
Yeah.
And I think yes, no, definitely is a question we still matter. We've got to assume good faith, I think, at some point, and that people are being straightforward with us in their responses, and we can't control bad faith, right? So we've got
Yeah.
to assume good faith.
I mean, for me, the neighborhood question is more important than the home address question, right? Because that was an interesting sort of data point for me personally, is we seemed to have heard from some neighborhoods a lot more than others, right? Like I think there were hardly any responses, if any, from the Point neighborhood, or from like the Castle Hill neighborhood, right? And yet there were tons from other neighborhoods, right? So it is something that is worth considering.
Hmm.
And
So maybe
also,
we
like you
put it
said,
by
there was
word,
not a,
would that get, oh, sorry, indeed.
I was gonna say, and so you also mentioned that there wasn't a single response from any of this on the Spanish
Oh yeah,
one either.
zero responses on the Spanish version. Which also, you know, it gives you information around who's answering the form, because we know that 33% of the schools are Spanish speakers, and according to census data, which is often underreported, 15% of the population in Salem speaks Spanish.
I mean, there's also a distribution question too about
Yeah.
how this gets out there. I mean, is it possible? Because I'm just trying to think how to get specific. Is it possible to have the city councilors or like send it out to those to their email lists? Is that a thing? Is that
Yeah,
legal? Is
yeah.
that okay?
I think I did have, well, so for the listening sessions, I did reach out to some of the city councilors, or most of them anyways, and had them share the listening session with their networks. And I think Alice told me that she couldn't share it because it was seen as like, she gave me a reason and I can't remember, but it was like you know, because it's seen outside of like what is appropriate to include or something. So there might be a concern there.
Thinking of targeting the people that we've mentioned have not responded at all. I'm assuming they haven't even seen it. So that's kind of where I'm working from. How do we just, do whatever we can to put it in front of them?
I think that sometimes, like, as someone who wrote a dissertation for 7 years, there was always a limitations and future remarks section that was whole, like, 10 pages of like future recommendations. Here's somebody else, like, or these are some limitations to the what report we do. And like, I think that the timeline conversation and also this report writing conversation like speaks to that we're not and I like to go back to what Carly had said, we're speaking in drafts, we're writing in drafts. Perhaps we could write our limitations down at a particular point and send it for consideration at that point. Is that such a bad idea? Especially if we can say, look, Spanish speakers weren't there. Certain neighborhoods were not represented in this input form as of August or September 2025. These are the groups and these are the neighborhoods and these are the communities from Salem, Massachusetts that are not shown up on our form. And this is
Well,
what.
I think that's my only concern about changing the questions and everything. If we change it, we've got a whole new data set here, and it's not this same data that we're collecting, right? And so we can't say, oh, Spanish speakers weren't represented as a whole, or we can't go and then target Spanish speakers with a new
Okay.
set of questions,
Okay.
and then say, well, we didn't capture those last time. Like, they're not a percentage of that original set anymore at that point. It's a new set.
So I wonder if it would make sense to keep the questions as that is and add one more question, at least for the one that Dakota that you spoke of in terms of like catching the spirit of what it means to you. Maybe that's an additional question. And we can always speak to, like from a data science perspective, like we can talk about that question and like only like say 15% of the entire data like response that had an opportunity to answer this one question, but the rest of the survey is just on a different platform. Like,
And I
I
would
don't know.
suggest maybe on the what does its purpose too, I would suggest maybe, we've got enough data now that we can say 3 or 4 canned responses, that we could make that a multiple choice in the list of text other in there, rather than just leaving that entirely open.
What, can you repeat what the question was, Dakota? Like capturing the spirit of what the seal means to you? Because what's the
Well,
actual question we're putting on the
I think
form?
there's 2 questions here that we've talked about, and I think they're both equally important, but they might not be the same question, right? Is what is the purpose of the city seal? Is it to commemorate history? And And I say maybe multiple choice to that because we want to have bigger thoughts on that than just to put on the top of documents, to stick on the trash
Yeah,
can, right?
just
We don't want
to
people to
stick
be
on the
literal
trash
in that.
can.
Like a driver's license
It's
exam.
what is the purpose? Is it to commemorate history? Is it to represent the city as it exists today, et cetera, et cetera? Maybe the way that Aditi put it, which I think is also a great question, is what does the city seal mean to you? Maybe that same answer, or that may be a different answer.
Yeah, those could be like two open-ended questions or like a little more titrated questions, and the rest stays the same.
And remove home address just because of the
Just remove the home address just
privacy.
because of privacy, and we could that is enough of a concern to list. But the question
We
essentially
could
still stays
remove
the same.
are you aware of our city seal?
That would change the survey though.
Would
And
it?
like we already, I know, but we already like we already said, like even in the listening sessions that y'all have had in person, folks have said, I don't even know this is the seal. Like even
Really?
we need it. Yeah, even I needed I needed a clarification on is the witch, are we talking about the witch patch or are we talking about which is the logo? We just had that conversation amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Farmer's market.
So
Yeah.
so
It seems weird that like if you're filling out those 7 questions or however many, you must have some awareness of the
I
seal.
know, yeah, but I think also for the sake of consistency, if we want to use this data ported from one format, one platform to another, there has to be a mirror. Like you can't just completely change the questions, otherwise then like comparisons lose meaning.
yeah, you're exactly right. So are we adding race and age though? Did I hear a yes on that?
You
I like
can,
that.
but you won't be able to speak to it much. Just remember that. So all responses after 400 will be different responses then. You cannot speak to, you won't be
But
able
we're
to.
already adding the other 2 questions, so we might as well add race and not gender, race and age.
It's
I mean,
just that you wouldn't be able to represent race and age as a percentage of the whole. We know with the new
Oh,
questions, we
yes.
can't
Yes, of
represent
course.
any percentage that we take on those, but those are qualitative questions to an extent.
Yeah.
Race and age would be something you would quantify probably at some point, and you couldn't do that for the whole set at that point. You would have to say, I don't know how you would put that. Aditi, do you have thoughts? You probably spend more time with statistics than I do.
I would just say, I would say, the first 400 responses did not try, we did
Track
not
this
ask
information.
for, yeah, we did not
Mhm.
capture this information for the first 400 responses. However, all of these following, and you can always present the reason why, but you have to be very clear about that reason.
Mhm.
Like, this is the reason why we introduce the variables of gender and age into our ask.
Yeah, so just to put it into perspective, there's 45,000 people in Salem. We've heard from a little less than
400.
400. Yeah. So that's an interesting kind of data point on its own. I mean, but we're getting close to 1%, which is statistically significant, I think.
How many people voted in the mayoral election? Right? So 900 or
900.
something.
Yeah, that's what we
Wait, are you serious? That low? How did I not know that? Oh my
So just,
God.
of the people that are engaged in Salem with, through self-motivation, I suppose is pretty low to begin with, I guess, it seems.
It's only
Wow.
900 people out of the whole city voted in the mayoral election.
From what I
BJ?
I
understand.
don't know. I didn't know that
Yeah, I'll try to look it up right now.
information point.
Yeah, this
Okay, so just to move us along, okay, because it's already almost 5:30. I'm gonna keep the form the same. I'm just going to transfer it over to Jot form so we can track IP addresses. The questions are going to stay mostly the same. I'm going to remove home address and just ask for neighborhood. Then we're going to add what is the purpose of the city seal? What does the city seal mean to you? And then we're also going to add race and age. Does that all
Yes.
sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Great.
And I'd
Can I get a
consider a couple of
motion?
leading ideas on what is the purpose of the city seal. Like I say, either as a multiple choice or just for example, rather than to get people out of their literal minding thinking.
Well, we can include examples.
Yeah.
Like what are some good examples of a purpose, like for
I'd
record
say to
keeping?
commemorate history, to celebrate, or to commemorate history, to symbolize the city's present and future, etc. Something like that.
Perfect.
To represent the current population. I don't know how you'd say it, but you know.
Yeah. I'll send a draft before we publish it anyways. Okay. Okay, so can I get a motion to close the current feedback form and publish the new form with all of the changes we just discussed, and to have there be no no point in time where we don't have the form published, like zero transition.
Yeah.
Am
I
I wording
introduced-
this right? Like
Yes.
basically, oh,
So to open the new form and then close the current form, I think is what you're saying.
Oh no, I think we lost.
He's frozen, but
no.
yes, Dakota.
Cool. Now we don't have quorum.
Yeah. Stop speaking.
Immediately. Hold your thoughts. What
Are
do people have for dinner plans?
Uh-oh. I just
let
got
me-
appointed the host,
Oh,
so
he's back! Yay!
that's not good.
Quick fact check. It wasn't 900, it was 9,000 people.
Oh,
So
okay.
Oh,
Good.
28%.
That's
Okay,
28%
that's very
of the
different than
That
what
makes
we
me
were
feel
told.
better.
We were told a
Yeah.
lot lower number. That's right. Yeah. No, 28% of the city, 9,000-ish people. That was for the,
hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, I fell off there. Not sure what happened.
We had to go quiet immediately because we broke quorum.
Yeah. Okay, so where did we leave off? We were about
I
to
think
do
my
the
note before
motion.
you left was maybe the motion should be structured as to open the new form and then to close the current form.
Yes. Yeah, I was struggling with how to say that. So, in other words, we will always have I'm struggling with wording, but like we will have a feedback form published on the website at all times. It's just going to be like the new form, right?
Yes,
With the updated questions. Okay.
yes.
And what
Can
was
I
the
get a
program?
motion for that?
I introduced a motion to keep the form in whatever version of it always available to public.
With the
Don't know what to
changes we
say.
discussed.
With the changes that we discussed. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Can I get a second? Suzanne, and all those in favor, raise hand. Excellent. Approved unanimously. VJ,
Is
did you
Jot-
have something to add?
I was going to say, is Jot form? It just that's the program we decided upon. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
simply because it allows you to track IP addresses.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay.
Great.
Moving on. So scheduling upcoming outreach and the next listening sessions. So I think we're ready to schedule our next listening session, maybe even next 2 listening sessions. So let's just look at our calendars and see when we would like to hold those. And just remember that we're looking to have it be in person this time.
Is there a hybrid option or will it be fully in person?
Oh, good question. I think hybrid option, yeah.
Where would we do it?
So I think I will figure that out. It will either be at the Council on Aging, at the CLC, or in the annex in the large conference room. Maybe city council chambers. I don't know, but probably
Wanna
probably the
try
annex.
having a more like cafe setting rather than like a big rows and rows of chairs and then us sitting in the front?
We will, well, I don't know. What I was picturing is having like a sort of U where we would be seated and then a little podium where a person can just go up and speak and we'll time them and just like we did on the Zoom session. And then the next person will go up and speak, and then we can call on the Zoom people.
So here's what I hate about that, I'll be honest, is it's not a conversation, A, and B, there's a time limit on it. And a natural conversation, if somebody's talking for 15 minutes, you'd say we've got to move on. But to have that 2 minutes is really, I don't know, and people are talking fast, they're a little afraid of public speaking, that like just sitting around a table with 3 other people is so much more available and friendly, and like here we all live in Salem. I want to hear what you think.
Hey,
I,
is it,
I,
can I,
oh, sorry, Aditi, please.
I was just gonna say, just in the interest of time, can we schedule the dates and discuss the format? Because I'm guessing that we could schedule the dates pretty easily, and then we'll still have a little bit of time to schedule the
Idea.
format of it, you know?
Good suggestion.
Sorry, Susan. I
No,
like your idea.
That's very good. I gotta say, speaking for myself, I would never speak at a listening session
Sure,
like where I
sure.
just stand up at a podium and face a U table, shaped table full of people on the, it's just,
Yeah. So I think let's just finalize on the dates, so, and then we can keep
alrighty.
deliberating on how to
Let's
do it.
go.
And Dakota, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say 2 different types of forums for different purposes, right? So like you pretty much got to have people stand up and say their piece if you're collecting public comment for the record to be using in this report, because in a conversational way, that doesn't capture it the same way. If you're looking to more engage people in a conversation, like I think we got to decide what our purpose is on those. But I'm with you. Let's get the dates on record, and then we can talk about what we want to achieve with these.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we had this conversation last time, and I asked Beth and James for their input, and they basically told me that it's a different sort of platform, that if it's a listening session, this is the model that we use, because if we're scheduling a listening session, then that's what we're doing. We're not having a conversation, we're not responding. But yeah, we can talk more about it later. So let's look at dates. So the next regular meeting is on the 15th. So what about the 22nd of September?
Yeah,
Fine by me.
fine by me.
I can't,
From
well, so I have
in the evening?
what time? Yeah, because I have a 1 o'clock thing that, and then I'll have to drive back from it on the 22nd. So what time are you talking about?
I'm thinking the evening, so probably 6 to 7:30.
I
Yeah.
could probably do that. I don't think I could safely do 4 o'clock.
Okay. Is 6 too
Well, that would work for
early or
me.
too late? That would work? Perfect. Okay, let's just do that then.
Fuji?
Listening session.
Yeah, is there a difference between 60-minute or 90-minute?
So last time we scheduled it for an hour and we went a little over. And so this time I was thinking maybe we can do 90 minutes, but we can like cut it off at 90 minutes, right? Because last time we just got a lot of interest and a lot of people signed up, sorry. And
I mean, that's the
so
purpose of having
just from
multiple,
experience.
but isn't that the purpose of having multiple if we can't get to everybody? I'm just being mindful of how many additional meetings we have next month and
Yeah,
just,
that's fair. We can keep it to an hour then. That's fair. So let's keep the listening session to an hour. And then let's go ahead and schedule another one in October. And that way, whoever doesn't get to speak, we can invite them to the upcoming one.
Would that one in October be in person or hybrid or virtual?
I'm thinking hybrid again.
Just thinking about traversing the city in October. You're not going to get your
Yeah,
highest number of
right.
folks.
Also, just considering that we had so many speakers from Aceh last time, if we offer a hybrid option, do you think that we'll get a lot of speakers from Aceh again, or? Because we heard more from Aceh than we did from people in Salem, so I just want to be mindful of that.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to,
think
go ahead, Devoto.
I just think it's tricky. I mean, if you open it up to everybody, you open it up to everybody,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. You can't say,
We can,
yeah, okay.
yeah, we shouldn't.
Especially
Yeah.
if we are making it hybrid. Okay, that sounds good.
I mean, the only
Um,
thing I would flag about the 22nd, because I'm just looking at my calendar, it's like Rosh Hashanah Eve. I don't know if that has any impact on anything, but I
oh,
want to
no,
be mindful
we
of.
can't have it then. We can't. Yep. Thank you so much for pointing that out. We're actually, we have a new policy where we're not, which actually I created, so I should know this. So we shouldn't be scheduling public meetings on major religious holidays, and Rosh Hashanah is definitely one of them.
Yeah,
So
because
we
that's
have to
multiple
reschedule it.
days. I think that's 22nd or 24th, again, from the Google World
Yeah, I
Holiday
think it
Calendar.
begins at sundown, so that would be out.
Well, and
That
I
date is
have
out.
down that we're meeting on the 20th of October. Is that wrong?
No, that's, I have
For
that
our,
too.
That's our regular meeting, Suzanne.
so we would meet again on the 20. Let's not
No,
meet
this is
that
for the
week.
listening session. That's for the listening session,
But if we have
Suzanne.
2 meetings in the same week, I'm gonna. Let's
I
not.
don't think we're talking about the same week though.
No,
Are
we're
we?
not.
Well, I
Yeah.
have
But we're
on
talking about September right now.
October 20th, that says city seal meeting. I don't know why I wrote it down there, but I guess.
No, we do have a city seal meeting on October 20th, but as we're scheduling the listening session, which we don't have on the calendar yet. We were talking about September 22nd, but we're not doing that now.
Oh, I thought we were
Yeah.
talking about October 20th. Never mind.
Yeah, and we can't do the 22nd because it's as Poochie kindly pointed out, it's the beginning of Rosh Hashanah. Thank you so much, Poochie. So let's look at another date. What about the 29th
Of October?
of September,
Oh,
6 to 7:30? Sorry, 6 to 7. Sorry, misspoke.
I can't make that.
You can't. What
I'm
about
not-
Tuesday, the 30th, September 30th, 6 to 7?
yeah, that whole week for me is,
I kind of can't do that one, but I can do, so Monday, wait, I'm totally, so Monday, the 29th, I already wrote down that we're having a city seal meeting.
I
Why?
think the 29th was scheduled to be a special meeting, but we haven't gotten to that yet, to that discussion.
Oh, so.
But we
put a
were
question
gonna,
mark
we
on it?
haven't confirmed it, right? So right now it was just a tentative hold.
Well, what, could we make it a policy to not have more than one meeting per week?
I think that's fair, and yeah, we can do that.
Do we need
Poochie?
quorum to hold the input session? And it's not an issue if we're only getting input again, right? Because it'll be recorded and.
Oh, do we? Because we
That's a
just
good
need to.
question.
I don't think so.
I don't know. We might
Well,
not need quorum for that.
but we've had the listening sessions at that's not being quorum at the farmers market. That's just been in sets of 2.
But I feel like that's different for some reason. I don't think we need quorum, so let's maybe go ahead and schedule it on the 29th then, from 6 to 7, even if some people can't make it. Okay.
Wait, so the 29th of September, erase the question mark and put down 6 to 7?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
no
we're
special meeting that
no
night, but a
special
listening session
meeting.
that night.
All
We
right.
will
Suzanne.
have the listening session.
All right.
Can somebody just look online really quick to see if there's any other holidays? If there are any other holidays I might be forgetting? Like
Well,
Eid
this
al-Fitr
question,
is also around those dates, maybe. Okay, I'm gonna assume there's none.
I'm not seeing anything. It is
Okay.
National Coffee Day. Michaelmas.
Very
Probably
important.
enjoy it, while we're.
All right,
Michaelmas
so
is getting
then
started.
let's schedule this listening session in October. Just to hold another date for it, we can confirm it later. What about the 14th, which is a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, 6 to 7.
That works for me, and I'm gonna go shut the windows because it's pouring.
Perfect. So I'm holding the 14th and of October and the 29th of September. And we'll confirm those at an upcoming meeting. Great. Okay, so I think we can
Are
move
you going to
on.
send out calendar holds on those, Rahina, or should we mark our
Yes.
own? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. So then moving on to the next agenda item, scheduling presentations through the end of the year. So we do have a September presentation already scheduled, which is Michael Fiener is going to present on the history of the seal. I forget what his topic specifically is on. I'll try to get that information to you all ahead of time. He did tell us at one point, but I'm forgetting. So he's scheduled for that next for our next regular meeting.
That's
I
the
have not
15th
heard
of
back from the
September, right?
yes, on the 15th.
Mm.
I have not heard back from the PEM.
Mm.
And we also had a speaker, Erica, is it Professor Erica
Yeah,
Lee?
Dr. Erica Lee. I have a programming note on that. It's
Okay.
September is looking difficult for her.
Oh.
Mondays in October, except for the 13th, are looking good. I think we've got a regularly scheduled meeting on the 20th in October.
Yep.
The 20th.
I might suggest that is that right? I might
That is
Okay.
suggest that we reach out to her and see if that would work.
Okay, perfect. So then holding October 20th for Dr. Erica Lee. Any other presentations? Oh, Aditi, you mentioned about wanting to present.
Yeah.
Can we
Is
also have that be during, oh no, because we said no more than one presentation per meeting. So
I could do 15. I don't know. I could definitely do on the 15th. I can make mine a little more
well,
succinct
but
if that's okay
if
with
Michael
people.
is presenting, we don't want to
Okay.
have two presentations because it would be too much.
Got you.
We'll be in touch, Aditi, and we can figure out which
Okay.
date makes sense. But we're holding the 15th of September for Michael Fiener and the 20th of October for Dr. Erica Lee. So we'll figure it out outside of those two dates.
Sounds good.
As
Okay.
well. Oh, just one more, Rahina. The sort of an update to the history of the seal. If I'm going to be going through Eileen's files and things like that, I take it
Oh,
that's gonna be
yeah.
a presentation for effectively an update to the first presentation I gave, with all that info included.
Yes. So let's plan for you to give us an update during our next regular meeting, VJ, and we can talk about scheduling a presentation if that makes sense, or if you feel like you have enough, and we can talk more about it then in an upcoming agenda. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's fine. So I won't
Yeah.
present at that time. It's more just this is what I've found, and if there's enough there to warrant another meeting or a presentation.
Exactly.
Yep,
Yeah.
cool. I'm down.
I guess, Rita, like the other thing I just wanted to ask is like, I don't have to make a formal presentation if we don't have to, or I can forward the formal presentation. But even if I could have about 15 minutes of audience time just to talk about the content that I want to share, if that's appropriate.
We can
Because,
do that. So if you want to do that in the September 15th meeting, Aditi, I can add you to the agenda, but it
yeah,
just wouldn't be like a long formal presentation. It
I'll
would
try
just
not
be
to.
more
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
discussion. Okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
perfect. Let's do that.
Yeah. I will still use some PowerPoint slides. I
That's
just
fine.
trained to do that, but I just, if it could be a shorter conversation rather than a presentation.
Yeah,
All right.
we can
I,
accommodate that.
I think it would also be good after the presentations, maybe not immediately after in that same meeting, but the following meeting, we have time to like discuss that. If we have questions, say, for
Yeah,
example.
that could be a good agenda item, right?
Yeah, exactly. So at it sort of
Mhm.
like after every meeting, after every presentation, the following meeting, an agenda item would be discussion of questions about, things like that. Because there's a lot of like on the fly that we got to do once the presentation's over, and that's kind of the end of it, and we don't get to talk more about it. So
Mhm.
having
Okay.
that time definitely helps.
Yeah, happy to accommodate that.
Cool.
Okay, any further discussion before we move on? Perfect. Okay, so we were holding September 8th and September 29th for special meeting dates. Let's see here. So can we confirm September 8th for a special meeting?
I can't
Or do
attend
we
that
need that?
night, but as long as you can make
And-
quorum, I can catch up.
Regina, what's the September 8th one for?
We were going to have a special meeting in case we needed it, but I'm thinking we might not need it anymore. So maybe we can just keep the 29th after the listening session to sort of debrief.
Hmm.
We could move
I'd
the
appreciate
listening
that.
session up. I don't know if that's
True, that's a good suggestion. So
Then
right
again,
now we have the listening session scheduled on the 22nd.
no, the
So
29th.
No, it's the 22nd from 6 to 7 p.m.
yes, the 29th was just the meeting, the special meeting hold, right? That's what I have.
Yes.
22nd
Yes.
is Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, that's right. That's
Oh,
right.
our
Thank you. Oh my
brains
God, we're
are
keep
fried.
struggling with this. I'm
I'm so
sorry.
sorry. I just need to
Thank you,
cross this
Poochie,
out.
for holding us accountable. Really appreciate you.
No, I'm nothing
Okay,
without my calendar, so I'm just like looking at it right now. But yeah, I
thank
just
you.
wasn't sure if we'd have a better yield of task force members if we considered the 8th instead of the 29th at this point.
Yes. So well, that's right. So we moved the listening session to the 29th.
Yeah, and then one is on the 14th of October.
Yes. And I did have that one right on the calendar. So then would it make sense to move up the listening session from the 29th to the 8th and then hold a special meeting on the 29th?
Wait, are we talking about October or September here?
September.
So what we're saying essentially is that, so right now as it is, we have a regular meeting on September 15th where Professor Fiener is scheduled to present, right?
Correct.
We have the listening session as of now is on the 29th of
Correct.
September. And then we have 10/14. Now we're talking about October. We have another listening session. And then as of now, we have 10/20th as a tentative date for Professor Lee.
Correct. And that's a regular task force meeting.
The 20th is also a regular task force meeting. I wonder if it makes sense to move Professor Lee up somewhere before the listening session so that we've heard two perspectives or two historic.
My
I don't know.
my only question was, I thought she didn't have any availability in September there,
Right.
except for potentially the 29th, which I believe we said we couldn't do, right?
Yeah, so I think right now the decision point is, should we move up the listening session from the 29th to the 8th and then hold a special meeting if we need it on the 29th?
Can people make it to the 29th? Can we meet quorum on the 29th if we have a special meeting? That's the question.
I don't know.
I can be here on the
Asking.
29th. I cannot be here on the 8th.
Okay.
I can be here on the 29th
I
of
can,
September.
yeah, sorry. Yep, I can do both right now.
Okay. I can do the 29th. So we have 4 votes. So 4 people, and then it's you, Rahina. Can you be there on the 29th?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't want my. And then we'd have to check with
Everybody
Rachel,
else.
Carly, Professor Fiener. Vijay, you can't be, but as of now.
Yeah, as of right now, I can. It might,
Okay.
see if it changes.
Okay.
For which date, VJ?
The 29th.
29.
I can the
Okay.
8th. The 8th is okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
I mean,
it sounds like we don't have any changes then, that we want to keep the listening session on this 29th and then just go from there. Are people okay with that?
so can I ask a question? Because this has been like confusing to me. I know that like a lot of the content of our task force meeting, we have to meet quorum and we have to deliberate and it is public record, but is scheduling public record too? Like could we just like like how do we get
So scheduling is part of my responsibilities as
yeah,
chair, and
yeah,
yeah, we can definitely communicate about scheduling
yeah,
outside of the meetings. It's one very clear exemption.
I see.
And that
Because
includes scheduling votes.
I see. So I wonder if
Mm.
we could just check with the folks who are not present right now if they can make the 29th. Um, I'm personally really, it would be a really neat, like back to back sort of perspective listening experience to listen to two historians, but maybe that
Okay.
doesn't have to
Well,
But then
so
be.
we need to move the listening session, right?
Yeah, let me, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send an email with this information and just put out a doodle poll and we can go from there, because I think we're confusing
Thank you,
ourselves now.
Regina. Yeah, okay.
Sometimes I think it's easier to just talk it through, but in this case, I think we're just confusing ourselves. So I'll
Okay.
summarize
One more
everything.
question.
Mhm.
So what is on September 8th? Anything or nothing?
Nothing else up now.
Nothing right now. Nothing is confirmed.
So
Yep.
so far, just as it is, if nothing else changes, as it is, it sounds like 15th is Professor Feener, 29th is a listening session, 14th October is a listening session, and 20th is our regular meeting with tentatively Professor Lee speaking. As of now.
Correct.
As of now.
Correct.
Okay.
Good
Sweet.
job, Aditi. Awesome.
Ah,
All right.
I think I
So
confused myself
yeah,
there. Sorry.
I
Rahima,
will
Rahima,
follow up with everybody.
Thank
how
you.
much notice do we give in terms of putting the listening session out? Since it did seem like there needs to be another conversation about what we want to achieve in that, if it's not the same model that we did last time, or it was just listening. So unless that's not up for discussion, in which case we'll just decide on the
No,
date.
we can have some discussion about it, but we'll have it during our regular meeting on the 15th, because that'll
Okay,
be
yeah, that's what
before
I
the
was, yeah,
listening
I guess that's
session. Yeah.
2 weeks before the proposed
Yeah.
date. Okay.
Yeah, and we can talk about the listening session. Um, just look at my notes right now. It's gonna be fun looking through these. It's okay. Um, okay, so that is that. We can move on. Any new business or anything that you would like me to consider to add to the agenda for an upcoming meeting?
I have some new business. Not necessarily anything to consider for an upcoming meeting, but I have some. I've been gathering a bunch of sources that will help us bring some of our discussion into a more localized historical context to get a sense of. And I wanted to present this before we hear from Dr. Michael Feener and then especially from a Dr. Erica Lee, because so I'm going to be putting this up into the shared folder. But I wanted to do it before so that we could all review, and then maybe that brings up some questions that then we can ask, those experts, right then and there. So just a couple things. I'll run through them pretty quick because, like I said, I'm going to put them up there. But Salem is very lucky that it has a lot of history that's been recorded, which is pretty incredible. So there's more than a few log books of ships that have made their way to Sumatra. So ship captains themselves out of Salem describing the relationship and the trade that they had together. The first one comes, it's the logbook of John Crowninshield from the Salem ship America III on their journey to Sumatra. There are quite a few different lines there, but one that would help is that he describes, after having been asked by a local headman there to settle a dispute between themselves and a neighboring town. John Crowninshield wrote that he said, "I was a stranger come amongst you to transact business merely as a merchant and had no right to interfere in your internal customs or affairs at all. I laid it laid it with themselves to abide by their own laws and customs, and that they should never ought to trust any foreigner or meddle or disturb their internal police. Pretty interesting. There's another ship log from the Salem ship recovery to Sumatra, in which they describe Luther Dana as the captain here. He describes probably that if we had treated the Sumatrans as Europeans are in general disposed to treat the inhabitants of India, we should not have these privileges and many others, but would have been in a continual war with them. So describing how they were actively thinking about the way Europe was trading at the time, which these later documents will show, versus how Salem was at the time. There's one from 1820. It's John Crawford, who's actually, it's a good perspective because he's not a Salemite. He's actually British. He's a British colonial administrator. He's a diplomat. He served as the second and last British governor to Singapore. So getting a sense of an outsider and as well a competitor's view of the American trade that's happening in the same time. He describes that in a history of the Indian archipelago, as he writes it, during all the time of the American trade, America, has never connected itself with any political concern of the natives, never embroiled itself in their quarrels, nor has any American ship ever been cut off by the rudest tribe they have dealt with. And the very vicinage of our powerful establishments, from the British perspective, the Americans, are now pushing their enterprises in situations that we have neglected for more than a century, and by their conciliatory conduct, receiving that character which their progenitors had lost. Their trade in all this time has been progressively flourishing, and without entering into question of the intrinsic superiority over the trade of the former masters of Indian commerce, so speaking from the British perspective, is, in point of mere quantity, incomparably more extensive, describing the American trade. There's as well a local bill, if you will, like almost like it's a letter that the Salem representatives sent to the Senate in the House of Representatives at the U.S., well, of course, in Congress for the U.S., in which they say that I'm not going to read it all, of course, but one line is, our national wealth is best promoted by a free interchange of commodities upon principles of perfect reciprocity. That's the word. George Nichols in 1858, who is a Salem shipmaster and merchant, wrote that nothing pleased the natives of Sumatra more than to find me ready to conform to their customs. And that's after a line in which he says, I was dressed in striped loose trousers, a thin jacket without a vest, an old slouched hat, and shoes without stockings. So describing the dress of the Sumatrans that he was amongst. And then for more academic sources, by that I mean in the 20th century, one I have already put up there, and I'll just point out some moments. There's part 1 and part 2. This is probably the longest of the sources I've put out there, but very, very rich in information. One thing that he points out, which is a very good point, is that the Peabody Essex Museum was founded because of the first trade with Sumatra. It was that first journey by Jonathan Carnes in which he brought back the artifacts that started the nucleus of the Peabody Museum in Salem, which became the Peabody Essex Museum now. As well, he writes that the American pepper trade had an important impact upon Sumatran history, and that it influenced the abandonment of forest cultivation in British territories of Sumatra. And we actually heard of this person from, was it Christina that we had heard from last week? I'm not quite sure if that was her, but she mentioned the man Stamford Raffles, who was a British colonial officer and governor of the Dutch East Indies, in which he describes that to Raffles, as he writes, the Aceh American trade had proved that free enterprise could produce far greater results than slave labor. And then the final one, which I'll point out, is actually a more modern source from 2014. The author is Farish Noor. He's an associate professor at Rajartnam School of International Studies in Indonesia, in which he writes about the overall policy of the United States then, so in the 1830s, was generally non-interventionist. It's important to remember that the popular perception of America by Americans was that it was a non-aggressive nation that did not have any grand expansionist agenda, unlike the old European states of Britain, France, Holland, and Spain that were seen as imperialist powers. So I'll put all of these up there, and I wanted to put this out there ahead of time so that we can all have a chance to digest it and then maybe bring up questions at our next meeting, especially as we're going to have Dr. Michael Feener present. So all of this will be out there, and I hope it will focuses our conversation onto the more local perspective of the Sumatran trade. So yeah, that's what I have. Thanks, folks.
So VJ, can you kind of succinctly into one agenda item, just state what you would want in the agenda for next meeting to guide our conversation?
Well, for the agenda for next meeting, it's more I put this up for not so much discussion directly per se, but more just this is background information to help inform our discussion going forward. Of course,
with Michael Feener's presentation.
Well, everyone's from here on out. Like this is
Okay.
just in the record for our information to be there as a part of our narrative. Really, it's
I
it's
see.
it's, it's
And I guess just to clarify, do you want us to have a discussion on that in an upcoming meeting, or is that not the ask? This was just for general information.
no, it's for general information to just to be made aware that it's you know, these are things that are most likely going to bring up questions. And so if
Okay.
questions do arise, it's not so much, I mean, if we want to have a pointed discussion item, I'm more than happy to put it on there. And if no one has it, then we
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to put in, you know, discussion of new historical materials, revealing Sumatran Salem trade, I'm happy to include that.
Well, it's only if you want it, because it's like this is the part where
Sure.
I ask. Okay, discussion
Yeah,
of
yeah.
historical context. Okay. Any other agenda items for next meeting under new business? Okay. So that concludes our meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I
Motion to
introduce
adjourn.
the motion.
Okay.
Aye.
Aditi makes the motion, seconded by VJ. All those in favor, raise hand. Okay, perfect. Thank you all. See you next time. Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thanks all. Have a nice
Bye.
night.